Dear friends, today we are going to understand a principle that can change your financial situation forever. The principle of prayer and God's promises. Many struggle financially, not because God is unwilling to help, but because they have not fully learned how to tap into His provision through faith-filled prayer. First, you must recognize that God is the ultimate source of all wealth. Every resource you need is already at His disposal. Prayer is the channel through which you align yourself with His abundance. It is not just asking. It is declaring your dependence on God and positioning yourself to receive His supernatural help. When you pray for financial help, speak God's promises over your life. Do not whisper doubts. Declare boldly that He is your provider. Say it with confidence. God will supply all my needs according to His riches in glory. These are not just words. They are keys that unlock doors in the spiritual realm and bring visible results in your life. Remember, blessings are not a matter of luck. They are a matter of obedience. Be faithful in your responsibilities and careful in your stewardship. God honors integrity and diligence. When you honor Him with your finances, He multiplies what you already have. Your faith, coupled with action, brings miraculous provision. Do not grow weary if answers seem delayed. God's timing is perfect. Persist in prayer, expecting results, and refuse to let fear or worry take hold. Faith is strengthened in waiting, and breakthrough often comes after consistent, unwavering trust. Your words matter. Speak life, not limitation. Speak abundance, not lack. Speak victory, not defeat. By confessing God's promises, you are activating the supernatural power of God in your finances. Finally, never underestimate the power of gratitude. Give thanks for what you already have, and praise Him continually. Gratitude invites more blessings and positions you to receive in ways you cannot imagine. Friends, remember, God's promises are real. His resources are infinite. Your role is to pray, believe, declare, act, and give thanks. When you do this, financial breakthrough is not just possible, it is inevitable. If you want, I can also convert this speech into a version under 800 words with practical examples and steps that feels like a full teaching seminar. Keeping it educational and actionable. Do you want me to do that? Understanding that God is the ultimate source of all wealth is one of the most foundational principles for anyone seeking financial breakthrough, yet it is often misunderstood or overlooked in everyday life. Many people struggle with finances not because of a lack of opportunity or intelligence, but because they have not fully grasped the spiritual principle that all resources originate from a divine source, and that aligning oneself with that source is essential for experiencing consistent provision. Wealth and abundance are not merely the result of human effort or strategy, although effort and planning play important roles. They are fundamentally rooted in recognizing that a higher power governs the flow of blessings and resources in the universe. When a person comes to understand that their financial well-being is connected to this divine order, their entire approach to money, work, and giving begins to transform. The act of prayer in this context is not simply a ritual or a casual request. It is an intentional alignment with the source of all supply. Prayer is a conversation with God in which the individual acknowledges dependency, expresses desires with clarity, and positions themselves in a posture of faith to receive what is already promised. It is through consistent, faith-driven prayer that one begins to develop a mindset that does not rely on scarcity thinking, fear, or anxiety about bills, debts, or economic uncertainty. Instead, prayer cultivates an understanding that God's provision is limitless and that every need can be met when one approaches the matter with confidence, persistence, and trust. This awareness also changes the way a person perceives opportunities and challenges, because they are no longer operating from a position of panic or lack, but from a position of expectation and hope. Furthermore, when individuals pray with an understanding that God is the ultimate source of all wealth, their decisions around spending, investing, and giving are influenced by this perspective. They are more likely to act responsibly and with integrity, knowing that mismanagement or unethical practices cannot produce lasting prosperity, even if temporary gains are achieved. Prayer in this sense becomes both a spiritual and practical tool, because it strengthens faith while also shaping wise habits. It encourages a long-term vision in financial matters, reinforcing the principle that God's timing is perfect and that sudden or forced solutions often do not lead to sustainable results. As one continues to engage in prayer, a deeper sense of peace emerges, even amidst financial uncertainty, because the individual learns to trust in a divine plan that surpasses human understanding. This trust is not passive. It motivates action grounded in faith, discipline, and creativity. It also promotes a mindset of gratitude, recognizing that current blessings, no matter how small, are proof of God's ongoing provision and a precursor to greater abundance. The practice of prayer, therefore, is transformative. It shifts focus from limitation to opportunity, from fear to faith, and from anxiety to assurance. Those who consistently apply this principle discover that financial resources begin to flow in ways that align with their efforts, talents, and circumstances, often exceeding what they initially imagined. Moreover, the principle that God is the ultimate source of wealth teaches humility, reinforcing that financial success is not solely a product of human skill or strategy, but a partnership with the divine. This understanding fosters generosity, as individuals recognize that sharing resources is part of the cycle of blessing and provision. In essence, the combination of acknowledging God as the source, engaging in consistent prayer, cultivating faith, practicing wise stewardship, and maintaining gratitude forms a holistic approach to financial breakthrough. It is an educational and spiritual journey that shapes character, strengthens trust in divine timing, and aligns human effort with supernatural supply. Ultimately, embracing this principle is not just about acquiring money or material resources. It is about developing a mindset, a lifestyle, and a spiritual posture that naturally attracts provision and creates a foundation for sustained financial stability, abundance, and peace of mind, demonstrating that when one truly aligns with the ultimate source of wealth through prayer and faith, every aspect of financial life is positively transformed. Prayer is the most powerful tool a person has to communicate with the divine and to invite supernatural intervention into every area of life, especially financial matters. Yet many fail to realize its true potential and purpose. It is not merely a ritualistic act, a casual request, or a desperate plea in times of need. Rather, it is a deliberate and focused alignment of the heart and mind with God's will and provision, creating a channel through which divine resources flow. True prayer begins with the acknowledgement of one's dependence on God, recognizing that human effort alone cannot guarantee success or meet every need. This awareness shifts the mindset from one of self-reliance, anxiety, or fear to one of trust, confidence, and expectation. When a person prays with intention, they are actively positioning themselves to receive solutions, guidance, and blessings that often surpass their understanding or imagination. Moreover, prayer is an act of faith that communicates both desire and belief, serving as a spiritual declaration that God is capable of fulfilling promises and providing abundantly. It is through prayer that a person begins to cultivate a deeper relationship with God, learning to listen, discern, and respond to guidance that leads to tangible results in their life. This process also strengthens character, teaching patience, persistence, and resilience, because answers to prayer are often revealed gradually, in alignment with divine timing rather than instantly. When approached correctly, prayer becomes both a spiritual exercise and a practical tool for change, as it shapes thought patterns, decisions, and attitudes in ways that naturally attract financial breakthroughs. People who understand the power of prayer learn to focus not only on asking but also on expressing gratitude, praise, and trust, recognizing that these elements amplify faith and activate divine favor. Furthermore, prayer has the ability to remove mental and emotional obstacles such as doubt, fear, worry, and scarcity thinking, which are often the greatest barriers to financial success. By consistently communicating with God through prayer, a person begins to develop a mindset of abundance and expectation, which influences their actions and opportunities, leading to results that may have seemed impossible before. Prayer is also transformative because it encourages clarity of purpose and intention. When a person prays for financial help, they are prompted to examine their goals, spending habits, and priorities, ensuring alignment with ethical and wise principles that honor the source of provision. In addition, prayer fosters a sense of peace and confidence, even amid uncertainty, because it reassures the individual that they are not alone and that solutions are available through divine intervention. It teaches that perseverance is key, as persistence in prayer demonstrates faith, strengthens resolve, and often leads to unexpected breakthroughs, sometimes in ways that surpass material understanding or logic. Over time, the practice of prayer cultivates spiritual sensitivity, allowing a person to recognize opportunities, guidance, and provision that may have otherwise gone unnoticed. It becomes a habit of intentional alignment with God's will, creating a flow of insight, creativity, and wisdom that enhances financial decision-making, career growth, and overall prosperity. Beyond financial matters, prayer shapes character, instills discipline, and nurtures a mindset of humility and gratitude, all of which are essential for long-term success and the ability to manage blessings responsibly. The power of prayer lies not just in asking, but in establishing a connection, building faith, reinforcing expectation, and demonstrating dependence on a source greater than oneself, which in turn opens doors for supernatural provision and sustainable abundance. When prayer is understood as an educational and transformational practice rather than a mere wish or hope, it empowers individuals to take confident steps toward financial stability, creates alignment between action and divine promise, and ensures that blessings are received in a way that enriches both personal life and the broader community. Ultimately, prayer is a gateway to understanding that financial success is not only about accumulation, but about the harmonious flow of resources guided by wisdom, faith, and divine favor, making it one of the most potent and reliable principles for anyone seeking genuine, lasting provision. Declaring God's promises is a transformative practice that bridges the gap between faith and manifestation, yet it is often misunderstood as merely repeating words without true understanding or belief. At its core, declaration is an active, intentional proclamation of what God has already promised, spoken with faith, confidence, and expectation, and it serves as a way to align one's mind, spirit, and actions with divine truth. When a person declares God's promises over their financial situation, they are not hoping or wishing for a miracle to happen. They are boldly affirming what is already guaranteed in the spiritual realm, bringing it into visibility in the natural world. This principle works because words carry creative power. They shape thought patterns, influence behavior, and open the way for opportunities, solutions, and blessings that may have seemed unattainable before. Consistent declaration reinforces belief and faith, helping individuals internalize the truth that God's provision is not contingent on luck, circumstance, or human effort alone, but on trusting in a source that cannot fail. When a person speaks words of promise, such as affirming that God will supply all their needs, these words become spiritual anchors that stabilize hope and encourage persistence, even in challenging financial circumstances. The act of declaration also strengthens resilience because it teaches the individual to focus on divine assurance rather than on fear, lack, or the negative opinions of others. It creates a mental and spiritual environment in which positive results are expected and natural actions toward financial improvement are more likely to occur. Furthermore, declaration of promises is not merely verbal. It is accompanied by visualization, belief, and alignment of actions, meaning that a person begins to make decisions that correspond with the abundance they are claiming. This alignment ensures that spiritual intention is paired with practical effort, creating a synergy that activates breakthrough. As declarations are repeated over time, they reshape the subconscious mind, replacing limiting beliefs with empowering truths, which in turn influences behavior, decision-making, and the ability to recognize opportunities that align with the promises being claimed. Declaring promises also serves as a protective measure against doubt, fear, and negative influences that may attempt to undermine faith. By speaking words of truth and faith consistently, the individual establishes a firm spiritual foundation that keeps hope alive and encourages bold, confident steps toward financial goals. Moreover, declarations cultivate a sense of gratitude in advance. Name as the act of proclaiming what God has promised encourages the heart to anticipate fulfillment and appreciate the blessings that are already on their way. This gratitude not only reinforces faith, but also attracts further favor and provision because it aligns the individual's attitude with principles of abundance rather than scarcity. The practice of declaration teaches patience and persistence, demonstrating that repeated, faith-filled statements are a way of strengthening spiritual muscle and building expectation, rather than relying on immediate or visible results. It also fosters accountability and self-discipline, as individuals are motivated to act in ways that honor the promises they have spoken, managing resources wisely and pursuing opportunities with integrity. Ultimately, declaring God's promises over one's financial life is an educational and transformative exercise, showing that faith is not passive but active, and that words combined with belief and action have the power to create real, tangible outcomes. It encourages individuals to live in alignment with divine truth, develop unwavering confidence in God's provision, and step boldly into the financial destiny that has been promised, fully understanding that what is spoken in faith carries both spiritual and practical consequences. This principle, when consistently applied, reshapes mindset, strengthens character, and unlocks doors to opportunities, resources, and breakthroughs, proving that declaration is not just a spiritual practice, but a key strategy for manifesting abundance and living a life marked by both faith and financial empowerment. Obedience and stewardship are essential principles for anyone seeking lasting financial breakthrough, yet they are often overlooked because people focus solely on asking or believing without understanding that God's blessings flow through faithful and responsible action. Obedience in this context means aligning one's life with divine guidance, principles of integrity, and ethical conduct, recognizing that God honors those who act in accordance with His will. Financial abundance is not merely the result of effort or strategy, it is the product of a life lived in harmony with divine standards, where faith is demonstrated through action and commitment to righteous living. Stewardship, on the other hand, is the wise management of resources entrusted to a person, whether large or small, demonstrating accountability and discernment in the use of money, time, and talents. When individuals understand that God entrusts them with resources to manage, it changes their perspective from one of entitlement or recklessness to one of responsibility and purpose. Obedience and stewardship work hand in hand because faithful actions invite God's favor and multiply blessings in ways that cannot be achieved through human effort alone. For instance, consistent giving, prudent investment, careful planning, and ethical business practices are practical expressions of obedience and stewardship that open doors for financial growth while honoring divine principles. Moreover, these principles cultivate character, teaching discipline, patience, and foresight, which are critical for sustaining wealth once it is received. People who neglect stewardship may experience temporary gains, but often face loss or instability because they fail to manage what has been entrusted to them wisely, whereas those who combine faith with responsible management experience long-term prosperity and security. In understanding obedience and stewardship also shifts the focus from merely seeking miracles to participating actively in the process of receiving blessings, fostering a mindset that embraces both faith and action. This perspective encourages careful decision-making, the establishment of financial goals, and the implementation of habits that support growth and stability, ensuring that divine provision is not wasted but multiplied. Obedience further strengthens faith because it demonstrates trust in God's instructions, even when immediate results are not visible, creating an environment in which blessings can manifest in their perfect timing. Stewardship, when practiced consistently, also attracts additional opportunities, partnerships, and resources, as responsible management signals readiness and integrity to both divine and human channels of provision. Additionally, obedience and stewardship teach humility, reminding individuals that wealth is not a personal achievement alone, but a shared responsibility that must be handled with wisdom, care, and generosity. By practicing these principles, a person positions themselves to receive not only material abundance, but also the wisdom and insight necessary to sustain it, creating a foundation for long-term financial stability, growth, and influence. These principles also reinforce gratitude and contentment, as individuals learn to value and respect what has been entrusted to them, fostering a mindset that appreciates both the process and the results of divine provision. Ultimately, obedience and stewardship are not just about following rules or managing money. They are about creating a lifestyle in which faith, integrity, and responsibility intersect to invite consistent blessings, demonstrating that God's favor is most evident when people act in alignment with His principles. By embracing these practices, one experiences not only financial increase but also spiritual maturity, understanding that abundance is the natural outcome of faithful stewardship and committed obedience, and that a life lived in this manner attracts opportunities, multiplies resources, and cultivates a legacy of prosperity, wisdom, and integrity that benefits both the individual and the community around them. Expectation and persistence are fundamental principles in achieving financial breakthrough. Yet many fail to experience their full power because they misunderstand how these two qualities work together to activate divine provision. Expectation is not merely hoping for a positive outcome. It is a confident belief that God's promises will be fulfilled and that blessings are already on their way, even if circumstances seem contrary. When a person approaches financial prayer with expectation, they are cultivating a mindset that is open to receiving, rather than one that is clouded by doubt, fear, or uncertainty. This mindset shapes not only thoughts but also actions, influencing decisions, opportunities, and responses to challenges in ways that align with the fulfillment of divine promises. Expectation acts as a magnet for favor, positioning the individual to recognize and seize opportunities that might otherwise be overlooked or dismissed. However, expectation alone is insufficient without persistence because results often do not appear instantly, and obstacles, delays, or setbacks can test faith. Persistence is the disciplined continuation of prayer, action, and belief even in the absence of immediate visible evidence. It demonstrates unwavering trust in the divine process, reinforcing the understanding that breakthroughs often come in God's perfect timing rather than according to human schedules. The combination of expectation and persistence creates a powerful dynamic. Expectation generates belief and vision for what is possible, while persistence sustains effort and faith until that vision is realized. This principle also encourages resilience, as individuals learn not to be discouraged by temporary lack or difficulty, recognizing that consistent faith and action eventually yield results. In financial matters, this could mean maintaining responsible management, wise investment, strategic planning, and continual prayer while believing that provision is forthcoming, even when tangible evidence is not yet apparent. Expectation and persistence also cultivate emotional strength, reducing anxiety and fostering peace, because the person understands that the outcome is secured by a higher power and that their role is to remain faithful and diligent. Moreover, persistence in the context of expectation trains the mind and spirit to focus on solutions rather than problems, on possibilities rather than limitations, and on abundance rather than scarcity. It also reinforces the value of consistent daily actions, showing that small, repeated efforts, when combined with faith and expectation, accumulate into significant breakthroughs over time. By maintaining a posture of persistent expectation, individuals are more likely to recognize divine guidance, timely opportunities, and the right connections that contribute to financial growth, thereby turning challenges into stepping stones rather than obstacles. This principle teaches patience as well, emphasizing that wealth and provision are often gradual processes that require trust, endurance, and continued alignment with divine will. Furthermore, expectation and persistence encourage accountability and self-discipline, because individuals are motivated to act in ways that honor the outcome they are believing for, demonstrating integrity, focus, and diligence in every decision. As a result, these two qualities strengthen character, reinforce faith, and create a consistent momentum that aligns human effort with divine provision. In essence, expectation without persistence is passive hope, and persistence without expectation is mechanical effort. Together, they form a spiritual and practical framework that ensures breakthrough becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Those who understand and apply this principle discover that consistent faith, patient endurance, and confident expectation unlock resources, open doors, and attract opportunities in ways that may surpass imagination, demonstrating that financial miracles are a natural outcome of a mindset that refuses to yield to doubt, giving rise to a life marked by abundance, stability, and fulfillment. By embracing expectation and persistence as guiding principles, individuals learn to navigate financial challenges with wisdom, act decisively with faith, and receive blessings in alignment with the promises they have claimed, proving that a steadfast heart combined with unwavering belief is one of the most reliable pathways to lasting financial success and spiritual growth. Positive confession is a powerful principle that transforms both the mind and the circumstances of a person. Yet it is often underestimated or misunderstood as merely repeating words without genuine belief or alignment with divine truth. At its core, positive confession is the intentional and faith-filled declaration of God's promises, blessings, and truths over one's life, spoken with conviction and expectation. Words carry creative power, and what is consistently spoken with faith shapes thought patterns, attitudes, and ultimately actions, influencing outcomes in the physical world. By confessing positive truths, a person begins to align their beliefs, emotions, and behaviors with what they desire to manifest, creating an internal environment conducive to success and abundance. In financial matters, positive confession is particularly critical because it strengthens faith and replaces fear, doubt, and scarcity thinking with confidence, hope, and expectation. For instance, declaring that God will supply all needs, that opportunities are opening, and that provision is flowing creates a mindset that naturally seeks solutions, takes action, and recognizes blessings even in small forms. Positive confession also works to overcome the limitations of the subconscious mind, which often harbors negative beliefs formed through past experiences, societal messages, or personal doubts. By repeatedly declaring positive statements, these old patterns are replaced with empowering truths, gradually reshaping perceptions of what is possible. Furthermore, confession is not merely verbal. It is accompanied by belief, visualization, and alignment of action, ensuring that spoken words are reflected in practical steps toward financial growth, resource management, and strategic planning. The practice of positive confession reinforces faith because it demonstrates trust in God's promises and establishes a spiritual authority over one's circumstances, reminding the individual that they have the right to speak life, provision, and abundance into existence. It also cultivates emotional resilience, as declaring positive truths in the face of challenges strengthens the mind against worry, fear, or negativity, allowing the individual to maintain focus, clarity, and determination. Additionally, positive confession encourages consistency, discipline, and self-awareness as individuals become mindful of the words they speak, understanding that every statement either contributes to limitation or to growth. This principle teaches that language is not neutral. It shapes reality, influences perception, and activates both divine and natural forces in favor of the one who declares faithfully. Positive confession also cultivates gratitude in advance, as declaring the fulfillment of God's promises invites a mindset that anticipates provision, appreciates existing blessings, and remains open to unexpected opportunities. By consistently practicing this principle, individuals develop a pattern of speaking life, opportunity, and abundance over every area of their financial journey, reinforcing expectation and strengthening faith. This approach also attracts favor, connections, and insights that might otherwise go unnoticed, as the individual's alignment with truth and positivity creates a spiritual atmosphere conducive to breakthrough. Moreover, positive confession integrates with other principles such as prayer, faith, stewardship, and persistence, creating a holistic approach to achieving financial stability and success. When words of faith are spoken repeatedly, they create a framework for decision-making, action, and perseverance, ensuring that the individual remains focused on what is possible rather than what seems impossible. Ultimately, positive confession is more than a motivational technique. It is a spiritual and practical strategy that trains the mind, strengthens belief, and activates divine favor, proving that the consistent, faith-filled declaration of promises and truths has the power to transform finances, opportunities, and overall life circumstances. By embracing this principle, individuals learn to harness the power of their words, align with divine provision, and step confidently into a life of abundance, demonstrating that what is spoken with faith, consistency, and expectation becomes a natural pathway to financial breakthrough, personal growth, and lasting success. Gratitude and praise are fundamental principles that have the power to transform a person's financial life, mindset, and spiritual alignment. Yet they are often overlooked or undervalued because many focus solely on asking, believing, or acting without recognizing the role of appreciation in attracting blessings. Gratitude is the conscious acknowledgement of what one already possesses, no matter how small, coupled with the recognition that all provision ultimately comes from a higher source. When individuals cultivate a habit of gratitude, They shift their focus from lack and limitation to abundance and possibility, creating a mindset that naturally draws more blessings into their lives. This shift is essential because the human mind tends to notice scarcity, worry, and obstacles, but gratitude retrains perception to see opportunity, provision, and favor even in challenging circumstances. Praise goes hand in hand with gratitude, as it is the expression of honor, reverence, and joy directed toward the source of all blessings, acknowledging its power, faithfulness, and goodness. When a person engages in praise, they not only affirm trust in divine provision, but also cultivate an atmosphere of faith, expectation, and alignment that attracts favor and opens doors that may have otherwise remained closed. In financial matters, gratitude and praise serve as accelerators of provision, enhancing the effectiveness of prayer, declaration, stewardship, and positive confession, because they demonstrate an attitude of thankfulness that signals readiness to receive more. Regular expressions of gratitude and praise also strengthen character, teaching humility, patience, and contentment, which are essential for sustainable financial growth. They help individuals avoid entitlement, complacency, or selfishness, ensuring that blessings are managed wisely and multiplied rather than wasted. Moreover, gratitude and praise have profound psychological and emotional effects, reducing anxiety, fear, and worry while fostering peace, confidence, and clarity. This emotional balance is crucial for making wise decisions, recognizing opportunities, and taking bold, faith-filled steps toward financial breakthrough. Gratitude also primes the mind for expectation, reinforcing belief that more provision is coming, while praise amplifies faith, creating a spiritual environment where divine favor and abundance flow more freely. When individuals maintain consistent gratitude and praise, they develop resilience, as these practices cultivate joy and trust even when immediate results are not visible, helping them persist in prayer, declaration, and responsible action. Furthermore, gratitude and praise encourage generosity, as a thankful heart is naturally inclined to share resources, help others, and contribute positively to the community, which in turn invites additional blessings and favor. The principle of giving with a grateful heart demonstrates trust in continued provision and strengthens alignment with divine laws of abundance. In practice, gratitude and praise can be expressed through spoken words, written reflections, acts of kindness, and celebration of even small achievements, all of which reinforce faith and position the individual for greater breakthroughs. This principle also integrates seamlessly with expectation, persistence, obedience, stewardship, and positive confession, creating a holistic framework for financial and spiritual success. By consistently practicing gratitude and praise, individuals learn to recognize provision as a continuous process rather than a one-time event, fostering a mindset that appreciates both the journey and the outcome. Ultimately, gratitude and praise transform not only finances but also the heart, mind, and spirit, teaching that abundance is not just measured in material gain, but in alignment with divine principles, joy, peace, and purposeful living. Those who embrace gratitude and praise discover that their financial life is enriched, opportunities multiply, and provision flows in unexpected and abundant ways, demonstrating that a heart and mind oriented toward appreciation and celebration of blessings is a powerful magnet for continued favor, stability, and lasting success. Through this practice, individuals experience a life where divine provision, wisdom, and joy converge, proving that gratitude and praise are not just spiritual exercises, but essential principles for creating financial breakthrough, personal fulfillment, and a legacy of abundance that extends beyond material wealth.